So today's demo comes down. We're making a stool, and you've seen what was going on for Let class, and everything comes down into this. I did a three-legged stool for one reason. It doesn't rock. It's solid. It sits. Everything comes into here. Now you start thinking about the design and everything along those lines. You got to make three legs kind of perfect. So I figured just a real nice, soft, easy turn, just so it like zips through here. I found out a few things about stools. I had made a table with 7-degree legs, and I tried 7 degrees on this, and that didn't work. It doesn't give enough stable base. So I doubled it, made a nice 14-degree angle, and it made a nice stable base. So this is 14 degrees on this one right here. There's a few things that you look at with a stool, and I decided to make the taller one because it's a little hard getting off of this one. So some of the part comes in the design of this thing. One, I scooped the seat so it fits nice and comfortable on my tush. I also radius this edge right in here quite a bit, because if it's square, even if it's just a quarter round, it'll start cutting off your blood circulation in your legs. And then your leg goes numb, you fall over and things like that. So a nice sweep back on that. My mentor, George, over there, always says, you know, things feel good in your hands. So I have a little finger relief underneath, just so it feels good. And when you pick it up, your fingers naturally go to that part of the stool. So now it comes down, I made this bigger one, and you can't have legs without a support. And then, so we have to have stretchers in here. Now we designed this off, and I did a nice T. Now normally they come side to side, equilateral triangle, but then you start weakening the joints in here because there's 2 dowel holes in each one. That becomes natural. So then you start, okay, I'm going to bring that up and down, and that's what they do for a 4-legged stool, so those holes are not in line with each other. It's a little more difficult with a 3-legged one. So I did this joint right in here where this comes in, a nice radius, fits in here with the dowel box in place. So how do we achieve that? And you're saying, okay, how do we start laying these things out? So when this comes down to a storyboard, easiest way is to start drawing these things out. You draw a center line. You draw your 14-degree angle. I know what my legs are going to be spaced at. I know the diameter of my legs I'm going to be turning on. So all of a sudden, and I know where I'm going to be putting my dowel coming across, because this is the length of my leg and this is where the dowel sets up. So by doing this, I can measure from this point and this point, and I only have 12.5 inches. I need to determine this leg here, made my equilateral triangle off of those 2 legs, and this would be as looking it down at that point. I know I'm going to make this joint 1.5 inches, and I know from this point to this point is 10 3/4. How did I come up with that 14-degree angle? Well, we could do a lot of different things on that 14-degree angle, and I don't know how many of you have one of these wiki degree angle things, but they work really well. So when I determined the 14-degree angle, I used my miter gauge and my table saw, put it on that, put it on 14 degrees, drew my lines, figured it all out. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of thought, but things work really well on that. So we're going to get started in a few moments, but first thing I'm going to start talking about a little safety. And as you can see, I have an apparatus on me for 1, a face shield, 2, for dust collection. This one goes on your fanny pack. I had a Trend Pro air shield before. The battery's on top, weighs a little bit. This is a 3M helmet, 3 times the money. It's a little more expensive. If you try to pick up this setup on its own, you're going to pay anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. I paid $100 for the helmet on eBay, and I think I paid $275 for this battery pack filters. I just did notice a warning on these for you old farts, flatulence. Your eyes might start watering and all things like that. So there is a solution. I also spray catalyzed finish. I picked up organic filters. So this is really nice for spraying finish because you do not smell a thing. You get fresh air blowing down on your face. Everything along those lines is extremely comfortable. So it has its downfall, but it works very, very nice. It is very comfortable. It lasts a long, long time. And they're totally rechargeable. The battery's internal on this one. It's not external. A simple plug-in, and the beep is not as loud as the Trend Pro Air Shield, so that beeping noise doesn't bother you. And when the beeping starts, I've done 8 hours with it. So it goes a long time. Like I said, you have to really hunt on eBay to look for the deal. This hose didn't fit exactly in there. I used tape and then a wire tie to hold it in. So hopefully you do not hear the fan when I'm trying to turn in here. If there's any problems, I'll just use it as a face mask and not worry about it from there. But I know for as much as I turned, I know my filters are filled with dust right now. But again, it still gives me tremendous airflow, and it is very comfortable. So let's get started. Turning all those bowls as fast as I could, I found out that I use my vacuum chuck an awful lot, and so normally this would just get sucked on. But this works just as well. I'm going to set this up as a reverse turn, so I'm just doing a small shallow dovetail. After looking at this piece of wood, this is going to be my bottom, and this is going to be my top. So I'm just going to do a shallow dovetail into this part. Somebody asked me about some vacuum chucks. Like I said, this would just get sucked on. I'd move the tailstock, just go at it. The point that I have in here is Cindidrosa's. She has a little set that comes down and has, I think, 5 different points. This one's a small one. She has a no point. She has a bigger point. But I like this because it's only a 3/8 of an inch exposed, so it lets me get a lot of different areas in here. Okay, we're just marking for the dovetail. This is the top of the seat, so we're going to be turning that out to make the dish. I'm just going to cheat a little bit right now. Give it a little true up. A lot of people come through here and they say, okay, I got to square this all up and everything along those lines. I'm a firm believer that it's easier to square this up by removing part of what's going on in here and starting this radius. This is the bottom of our seat. So I have my radius started here from the bottom. I want a little scoop in here for my finger. So we're going to do a nice one clean cut here. Again, always safety-wise, set your lathe off before you move your tool rest. I have a tendency to really do a shearing angle more than anything else. Be at 1 3/4. Okay, and then, okay, so this is divided in 48. So we're at 48, 16, 24, no, 32. And we're all indexed out. I want to do a tenon because we're going to turn this around. If you have a Powermatic, the indexing is right there, and they do it in 24ths instead of 48ths. So with this right here, I'm going to pull away the tail stock for a second. We're locked in. I'm going to cut a little better dovetail on this so this locks in. So now we go to our setup for our drill press. So again, simple jig. We set up a V-block. Flat board. Didn't do anything special, slid the block of wood until it worked. Came across in here, turned this on. What's nice about this little jig, it comes across here right now, let's say it's like 13 degrees. You hit 0, and it zeroes out. So whatever this is right here, this is telling you where it is 0. So that automatically, when you turn it to this, it tells you what angle you are. It doesn't care that this might be in this way. As long as you zero it out, it will tell you what that angle is. So there's one that automatically goes back to 0. This is the one to get. I don't know why they would have an automatic 0. So it came across in here, put this on front, slid the board until it went, shot a couple screws in, drew a center line, 45, 45, you got a V-block. So coming across in here, we need to drop this down. You can get it at Woodcraft, since they supply, they're a great supporter of us. That's the only place I'm going to say. I didn't set this up for the simple fact of coming across and wanted to show you, basically, I'm going in here and hitting my line. Okay, so we're good to go. So we're here, we have the angle. I'm doing a 3/4 tenon. Now I'm not going through the other side. You can if you want. It makes a really nice joint. If you want to go all the way through, you make it extra long tenon. And then cut it in half and do a nice wedge in there. A different contrasting wedge. Again, what's happening in here is not written in stone. Now, everybody kind of goes in here, well, you need to know the depth of everything that's in here and all that good stuff. I'm going to show you why it doesn't matter. Okay, so we're in here. We're going to throw the top. Again, I really didn't true much about this. All right now is I'm concerned about was just getting this close to the round that I need. I got my dimensions of the holes. Now we're going to true up this top and everything fine, so we're ready to go. I got a little bit of chipping here. Again, we all know how to turn. We're going to spend a lot more time, and we got an hour and a half to make a whole stool. So, what's the diameter of that seat? There it is. 11.5. You know why it's 11.5? Because the piece of wood I had was 11.5. Is it important? I guess so. It feels pretty good for me, but if I do this side, I'm only maybe 14 inches wide. I'm not going to go any further than that. So it's all relative of where the spread is, how you want the seat. Height-wise, why did I go 24 inches? 24 ends up being a really nice stool height for if you're working on a counter or anything along those lines. So you kind of consider that. They've been making chairs and stools forever. The reason why this small little stool is that short and it's considered a milking stool, you get sitting down, you're going to sit there and work that cow or that goat, you need to be a little lower to the ground. It's as simple as that. So, and then for a timeout stool, when those youngers are a little longer and the grandkids come over and you're like, hey, timeout, there's the stool in the corner, it works out really well. And they're like, wow, this is nice. I usually have a nice sweet background on my gouges, and after Ashley Harwood's seminar, I have now these 40/40s in one of my basically go-to tools. It works really nice. I use both equally, but this is really user-friendly. So if I'm trying to teach somebody or anything like, I give them the 40/40 for the simple fact that it's a very easy tool to learn. If you got something with a little back sweep, like my fingernail gouge here is swept back almost 1.5 inches, especially when I grind with a 600 grind wheel. I just put it on a piece of foam rubber, ran it across, and sliced it fully through 1/2 inch deep. So with no pressure. So you may not want to give this to a beginner, but it works really well. So here we are again. Flip this on. We got a little bit of wobble. We're going to chew it up a little bit. Again, we're going to work this circle right here. Again, it comes down to that point where you don't want that leg to be pinching and giving you circulation of the blood cut off. Is that drill pressing weight? Yeah, yeah, just move it out of the way. Again, the idea about the straws, we need to go downhill. I can't go this way because we're gutting it, forcing the grain where it doesn't need to be, so we need to go downhill. We can still work this one just like rubbing the bevel, like an outside of a bowl. Or you can scrape. So you can work this just like you would be turning a bowl, or shear scrape into this design. One of the things that I've seen with beginners, they'll go through here and they say, oh, I got to scoop this out. So they start right here. Well, I don't want to remove anything there, so why start there? So we start to climb where it's going in here, so we start to work this radius from our inside working out. So I'm going to clean this up. Then I'm from here, working my angle into this. So, I guess the big question would be, how much do you have to scoop out? I don't know that formula. You know, little more than that probably. One of those things that you find out afterwards if you did a good job. So here's the strange thing is, we probably took off 3/8 of an inch off that top surface. So, yep, not bad. So we have this surface right here, pretty much done. Turn fast, sand slow. Since I do this for a living, I get to buy all kinds of toys. And one of the things we don't like to do is make a lot of dust. One of our sponsors is Mirka. So this is a Mirka sander, vacuum cleaner. What happens is you turn this on, the vacuum cleaner comes on, and this is sucking all this up. You end up using a net sandpaper, so it ends up being totally porous. It sucks up all your dust. How slow am I going? I usually sand about 700, 600, 700. And like I said, I'm not going to do a lot with this, because we have a short time to get there. So I sanded it with 150. And one thing you can come across in here, and you don't be afraid to take the sander afterwards and just hit all the bad spots that you think you have. The next thing we need to do is make a leg. So the only thing I did right here was use the same jig. Made it into a straight part right into here. And all I have to do is turn it around. My legs set up, I knew exactly where I wanted this, because I drew this to this, and I allowed for my tenon. So it's all set and ready for length. I know the angle because it's the same angle that I drilled the top. So we're all set here. I'll dry assemble this, but I'm going to return that seat and get it cleaned up a whole lot better. As you can see, the bottom of that one's clean. If you look at the one stool, it had 2 beads on it and everything along those lines. I'm more in here telling you the construction of what goes on with this and how I achieve that. And setting up these jigs allow you to give you that information. So, sorry about that noise. Yes, you can use spur centers for this, everything along those lines. I just like the positive feel. So these things are really nice. This would be good for a circle or a square. You just come in here and it draws your nice little lines, and life is done. Snug that up, then tighten this one up. Doesn't hurt to use both ends. Give it a spin just to be safe. This is our leg. So we're going to duplicate this, and pretty much I kept the jaws because I know exactly how I want to do this, and everything lines exactly. So we rough it out. I started using this. this for, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years, and I'm not a believer in a roughing gouge, but actually I started using it, and I just found out how to use it. So now it works a little easier once you figure out how to use this thing. So the big thing about this is keeping your handle down, raising your handle to meet your product. If you try and come in like this, it just beats you to death, and you say, I'm going to keep this around here for 4 years, almost gave it away. So once you get this set around, and I grind this at 40 degrees for some strange reason, because my grinder's set up at 40 degrees, and it works really well. So that being said, again, approach down, raise the handle to meet your work. My hand's not here because the chips will beat you up once you start wearing a glove. It's in here to control what's going on with this. This is smooth. Come over here, cut my tenon, about like that. I'm going to bring this down just a little lower. Now I'm going to cheat. You got to figure back in the 1800s, there was little guys on lathes trying to make all these stools. And if you sit here, yes, with some calipers and a parting tool, you can line that up. This rubs on it. You approach it. And I'm 3/4 of an inch. Once you set it up, it's all set and done. This tool is $25. I'll give Chuck the web page. It's MidwestWoodArt.com tenon tool, an adapter. Basically, this is just a bent piece of metal with an adjustment. Once you have it adjusted, you're done. And as you can see, that tenon took me how long? I made another one for about $6. And it's just a bent piece of metal, but that bracket gets in the way. So you have a tendency to work this out, so you're in between everything. And you have to stay farther away. But this will work. This will work. But for $25, it's not bad. So we're just going to chamfer this edge so it drives easy. And I already have this feeler gauge set up for here. So we're going to rough out this side. Again, handle down, approach it so it cuts. I don't like to get in close to the chuck with this. I set this up so my spindle is 1 inch away from this jaw. Give yourself some clearance. So we have our distances set up here and here. I have my thickness here because I just made this to the diameter that it was round, and now I'm going to work it from here. So the thing about a skew is if you want to go straight, leave the tool rest straight. If you want to go on an angle, angle your tool rest, because the tool wants to naturally follow that. Oh no, a skew. I wasn't really taught well. I've been using a skew for a while, but I know people like the curved skew, everything along those lines. It will help you on a skew if you can lay this pretty much flat, put it on a higher part, so this tool rest is actually above center. And then you rub your bevel. You notice my bevel is flat on the wood to keep that going. So again, I can't expect this to run on an angle unless I keep the tool rest on an angle. Secondly, I'm going to start from here to work to here. I'm not going to start here and hopefully get a taper. Again, slow tapers, practice what you're going, and slowly they get longer and longer. you will see that the tool will stop cutting in certain areas. It's because the angle changed from that plane to the next plane, and then blend it in from there. Again, working it towards that angle, and you notice that it missed. Okay, now my tool rest is a little farther away than I want. I got clean going, I see a little hump here, that's why it skipped on that one joint. I'm going to work this back over to here. I've still got about an 1/8 inch over here, and we still have quite a bit to go. Again, I'm not starting here, I got a hump here. So you can see this, all of a sudden that goes longer. It shows you how much I'm running on the bevel. The chattery here is just picking up a little spiral. What you don't want to have is any gouges coming out. If I knew how to make that spiral pattern consistent, that would be absolutely phenomenal. You're asking how long my tenon has to be. The reason I'm not too concerned about that is by leaving this shoulder, it makes a natural stop. So my length is always going to be the same as long as I have this stop in this length. It can only go so far in the hole. So to keep it clean, we're just going to work that angle off of there. Now, if you want these to swoop into your holes exact, and if you want to figure out the exact length of your tenon, and you want everything to be smooth, storyboard will work well for you. This works really fast. Okay, so I'm working from, again, angle, tool rest to where you want it to go. I'm working from this point down to this point. I hold my skew because I'm sorry, I can't skew left-handed. I'm not good right now. So again, this is going to come across, and I use the tool rest actually as my guide. This is where this sander works really nice, because it actually really catches the sawdust coming off the top of the spindle. It literally goes right into the vacuum cleaner. This is some really nice cherry. I was introduced to this old gentleman. He's out in Lynchfield. He's 87 years old and just a riot to talk to. And the LUT people are going to really enjoy it. Half-inch spindle gouge. Why did I use a skew? A skew plain cuts the wood. It gives you a finish. It doesn't give you chipping. It doesn't everything. But it also gouges really well. Really well. So it's practice, practice, practice. I use my bowl gouge I have here with a long sweep. I use that as a skew. It doesn't know any better. But as long as you rub it on the bevel, it works very well. I was thinking about sharpening an axe and bringing an axe and skew it with an axe, just for grins and giggles, but then that wouldn't be very safe. You could do it with a gouge, and I did most of that with the gouge, the roughing gouge. I could have roughed it mostly out. But as you can see, I'm just about as fast with the skew as I would be with roughing gouge. Again, a skew isn't used by very many people. But once you use it, once you get used to it, it's pretty darn nice. Put a radius here. Again, start from your corner, working the radius. Don't try to do the whole radius all at once. And again, I'm rotating the tool, starting up, rotating it to 0. I'm just going to hit a little sandpaper on it. Parting it off. We're going to come across. What I like about the thin parting tool, you could actually radius it and walk it in. Just that simple. It also works really nice as a shear scrape, and it's already radiused. So you can shear scrape that hole in. The big thing on this, if you notice on this stool, almost every leg has a divot hole in it. That's because of the simple fact that I parted this off without leaving a little bit of the nub sitting there. So, leave the nub proud. Take the last little bit, so you leave the nub there. And then just sand it off. Okay, so we got 3 legs turned. I have the stretcher piece done. Again, according to my measurements, from here to here needs to be 12.5 inches. So we're at 12.5, a little proud, not bad. We're dead center on our hole, and this needs to be 1.5 inches. Reason being, I took our block of wood, I drilled an 1.5 inch hole. Basically, I need 10 3/4 plus my tenon. I measured tenon, 10 3/4, added 3/4 inch for the center line of the hole. Drilled an 1.5 inch hole, so that fits. Then I took it on a table saw and cut it. So I have this exposed, so this fits into here. So now I got to turn this. So this is under 3/4 of an inch. I think it's like 1/2 inch or 5/8, something like that. 1/2 inch. Going back in here, finding our center. Finding our center. And then we need the center of this one. We're pretty close to center there. So I'm here, so this is 15/16. I'm going to go off the same edge. Is 15/16. Throw that away. Draw my center line, and then I need 15/16 here. There's my center line. This is where it really helps out, because it gives you that extra length. Whereas this one, it'd still work. It would still work. I just like a lot more clearance and not have my tools up against anything nasty. And that's the center. Tenon to the 1.5 inch over in here. Smooth it all out to make it work. Then drill a hole. I know the spindle's a 1/2 inch, so I need to leave about 1/8 of an inch in for that. I think my tenon's supposed to be 7/8. Again, rub on the bottom. We're done. Into here. If you want to, you can take this. If you have to shut off your everything before you pull it up. then we're working the paper down. You're actually safer holding your hand underneath because there's no kind of grab versus something on top that's going to clean. Now comes the hard part. We need to drill this. Yes, sir.
Can you use your skew to bring the ramp a little higher to the center?
Yes. I found that that's easier for me. The last cutting I did do with it lower. By putting it on the higher plane, I have a less chances of grab. So it allows you to play and practice with the skew and get a little more confident with it. And I can't tell you which one's better. You know, I have a square skew. I have this one has a rounded bottom on it. I know people have the swept back, and there's people who say that's the only way to use a skew. Whatever you use and you practice with, it's going to be your tool. It's as simple as that. So it's whatever makes you feel comfortable. I'm not one to get wrapped up in what's the best grind on it or something along those lines. Okay, so we're back to the 3/4 hole here. Your hardest part about this drilling right here is getting it started. I left a nice point for us. Okay, so you have a round bottom. You have a Forstner bit which is flat. And so if you fire it up right now, this thing's going to go nuts. So, just be sensible about it. Let's do a few hand cranks into here first. You get a flat bottom going. That's it. Now we got it all set up. It's got a shoulder that it's going to ride in. We turn the speed way low. We're going to drill. We're going to speed it up just a little more. And you're slowly going to crank in. So we set up. There's our joint. Don't let this limit you to the three-legged stool here. Because you can easily do a trestle table by doing 2 legs and having this run up to your tabletop. All of a sudden you have a center support, 2 legs coming down, trestle coming up. Same thing over there. So you can use this joint for coffee tables, kitchen tables, everything along those lines. And as you can see, it's not all that difficult, and it looks absolutely fabulous. So, the only other thing we need is a few more parts, and we can see if this goes together.
Would you glue that joint or would you try?
I would glue it. But I'm going to return the tabletop, the top of this thing afterwards, so we're not going to use any glue, we're just going to go dry. And you can see that the 3/4, I did that dowel with this tool right here. So it works out really nice. I didn't taper that one. 15 3/8 here, 15 3/8 here, and that's my equilateral triangle because all sides have to be equal.
Got it. Thank you.
So, and again, this is where critical
if you can see how these joints are here, the top parts are where they're hitting. So the length in here is determined by these shoulders, not the length of what the total spindle is. So, and again, nothing's stopping you from drilling all the way through and using an offset colored wedge, which that would go stellar, with cherry coming out across the top.